You might not know it to look at him,
I'm from the police force, man. My name is Lieutenant Columbo.
but he may be the world's greatest detective.
That's my specialty, you know. Homicide.
Short, disheveled, seemingly absent-minded, shuffling onto the scene in his rumpled raincoat, ubiquitous cigar in hand. He may seem lost in a sea of clues.
Last thing. Oh, that's very interesting.
But Lieutenant Columbo always has the upper hand, and he always gets his man.
You gotta admit I had you going for a while now, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Hi, I'm movie man Eric Houston. Columbo is a fixture of American television, a quality mystery show known for its clever writing and the deft performance of actor Peter Falk. Over 30 years on the air, it racked up accolades and awards, including 5 Emmys for Falk alone, and dominated the ratings whenever it was on. It was an early stepping stone for Jamie Lee Curtis.
I can come back.
And for Steven Spielberg. And its popularity has proven uncommonly enduring. Created by writers and producers Richard Levinson and William Link, Columbo was not the result of a long-held plan, but rather the child of necessity.
And there was a writer's strike in 1960, and we were amazed because Christopher Knopf walked into our office one day and said, "Get out of here." And we said, "Why?" We just joined the Writers Guild. And he said, "Well, your guild is out on strike." Couldn't believe it. And we said, "You know, you can write for live television. You can't write for film television, but it's quite kosher to write for live." And there was a mystery show called the Chevy Mystery Show on Sunday nights. And we sat down and we wrote a script, and it introduced a bumbling detective in a raincoat with a cigar, Lieutenant Columbo. And originally he was played by a man named Bert Freed on the Chevy Mystery Show.
While far from his finished form, there was something about Columbo that stuck in the minds of Levinson and Link, causing them to revive the dogged lieutenant only a couple of years later.
And then we looked at our television script, and we said, this would be a hell of a stage play.
And the first Columbo was Thomas Mitchell. I don't know if you remember him or not. He was a character actor. Oh, he's a wonderful character actor. Very well known. He was in Gone with the Wind. He had a big part in Gone with the Wind. And Joseph Cotton was the psychiatrist.
Agnes Moorehead is the wife who gets murdered. And Patricia Medina, who is a beautiful actress from England who Joe Cotton had just married. And we rehearsed the play here, and it opened at the Curran in San Francisco, and it ran for over a year in every major theater in the United States. It made a bundle.
As Columbo was winning stages across the country, Levinson and Link continued writing for television.
We went under contract to Universal, and they were doing the very early movies of the week. And they called and said, "What about Prescription Murder?" Because that had been the name of the stage play. And we said, "Fine, we'll adapt it for television." We wanted Bing Crosby to play Columbo with the pipe, very laid back, sort of sly. Bing Crosby wrote us a very nice letter. He had retired, he was playing golf, he lived in Hillsborough outside of San Francisco, and he said, "I really like your script, but there's no way you can lure me into television. I've had an incredible career, and I hear television is real hard work. I want to relax." But one day at Universal, the phone rang, and on the phone was Peter Falk. And he called up out of the blue and said, "I read this script, you know, I don't know, my agent gave it to me. You guys got this thing at Universal, and I'll kill to play that cop."
Well, the first time I read the script, I said I'd like to play that part. You could see that you could score with this part.
Gee, I must have fallen asleep here. I came in to read these books. Did you get your key? I left your key under the mat. Oh, good, you got it. Gee. Yes, I was reading these art books. I must have fallen. Oh, I'm sorry.
And we really liked Peter. He was a lot of fun. He had a great sense of humor, and he was very bright. And we thought, you know, he's very New York. He's very down to earth. He's very intelligent, and he's got a real great sense of humor. He could be Columbo. He was younger. I think Peter was like 38 or 39 years old. Well, he played the cop, and it was the #1 show that week. And NBC pressed us, "Now you got to do a series." And Falk said no. He'd done Trials of O'Brien. It was not a good experience for him.
Never fails. Guy does pretty good in nuts and bolts, and right away he has a compulsion to make the art patron scene. Well, Max, I wish you luck.
And there's no way he wanted to see his family, he wanted to play pool, wanted to play golf. He didn't want to commit to, in those days we made 39 shows a year. People forget that. A couple years later, Herb Schlosser, the president of NBC, called us and said, guys, you've got to bring that cop back. That cop haunts me. And we got such a good rating with him. We get Falk again, so we did another pilot called Ransom for a Dead Man with Lee Grant playing a brilliant lawyer. And again, it was #1. And NBC said, we got to do this as a series, come on. And that's when Jennings Lang, who was an exec and a producer at Universal, invented the wheel.
This so-called wheel was the NBC mystery movie. A relatively new concept in television, the mystery movie wasn't just a single series, but a sort of umbrella under which 4 different shows would rotate, like a wheel. One week, viewers would get Dennis Weaver in McCloud. The next week, it would be Rock Hudson and Susan St. James as Macmillan and wife. And the next week, Peter Falk as Columbo.
I couldn't figure it out. Suddenly I thought of something. How clever that first murder was. The phone gimmick, working late in the office. Brilliant.
Oh, you awarding gold medals today?
The wheel meant that Columbo would only be responsible for a handful of episodes a year, and that substantially smaller commitment appealed to Falk, who finally signed on. Columbo quickly became the breakout sensation of the NBC mystery movie, winning 4 Emmys in that first year alone. The show also amassed a dedicated viewership, which Falk attributed to Columbo's everyman persona.
Big guy. I think they like Columbo because he's unpretentious, and I think they like him because he's polite. I think he's a polite man. I think he's a decent man. I think they like him because he likes his job. He's involved in his job. And, he's heard of Gucci shoes, but, because they're an Italian product. But, he's not that concerned about his clothes, and he's not that concerned about his car, because he is that much involved in his work, and I think people respect that.
Falk always wanted Columbo to seem like the guy next door, the sort of guy you'd want to have a beer with. Because of this, criminals often underestimated the lieutenant, believing him to be an amateurish bumbler.
The thing about that is that a lot of people do describe him as a bumbler, and a lot of people, I read a lot of accounts that he plays at being dumb, and that's the thing that I try to avoid. I don't think he is dumb, and I don't think he plays at being dumb. There's a difference between being dumb, playing being dumb, and being distracted. And there's a difference between being foolish and being perplexed. There's a difference between being stupid and being preoccupied. And I think that if you play at being a chump or an oaf, there's no dignity there. And I don't think that people would like a character that doesn't have dignity.
That it's very important that Columbo never be a show-off. He's got a big brain, but he should never wear it on his sleeve. And it's very important that he appear harmless to the adversary. And one of the easy ways to do that you would start out by saying, my nephew, this kid is such an egghead. He knows about giant snails. I didn't even know giant snails existed. Well, the other day, he was here and he was talking blah, 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 and before you know it, I didn't find out about the clue, the nephew did. And that's the way you would deliver it.
I noticed he was a big man in the Shriners, too. Now, that's something I know about. That's a double eagle ring, Scottish Rite, 32 degrees. I had an uncle, he played bagpipes in the Shriners band. He couldn't play a note, but nobody could tell the difference.
And I would do that in most of those scenes, but I would forget what I said the last time, whether it was a nephew or it could have been a brother-in-law or a sister-in-law. So by this time, he's accumulated an army of relatives. But that's the reason all those relatives are there.
Similar to these phantom aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews was Mrs. Columbo, an unseen character whose own hobbies and inquiries would often inspire her husband's questions.
That's what Mrs. Columbo said? She said there's probably 2 accounts
and somehow they got mixed up.
Viewers never saw Mrs. Columbo.
Excuse me, Purser, have you seen my wife?
As a matter of fact, she's looking for you.
She's looking for me. How do you like that?
And Falk, Levinson, and Link all agreed that they never would, at least not on their show. You see, despite that trio's objections, NBC debuted the short-lived spin-off Mrs. Columbo in early 1979, starring Kate Mulgrew as Kate Columbo.
My husband's a fixer around here, but he's at a police convention in London.
Mrs. Columbo struggled to find an audience and was soon canceled.
Have you, Mrs. Columbo? You are in my power. What are you going to do?
Spray you with gas, Chief Inspector. I think you've just been maced.
Falk thought it was a bad idea, disgraceful even, but he did have his own ideas about what Mrs. Columbo was really like.
Well, you know, I knew right from the get-go that we would never see her, so I didn't waste a lot of time thinking about what she was like. But now that you mention it, I want Mrs. Columbo to look like my real wife.
That's a nasty-looking bump on your head.
Yes, it is.
Does it hurt?
A bit.
It's awful looking.
Of course, Mrs. Columbo wasn't the only love of the lieutenant's life. After all, who could ever forget the detective's most constant on-screen companion, Dog?
All right, come on, dog.
Hey, you got a name for him yet?
No, I was thinking of watching him and give him a name that fits something he did, but all he does is sleep and drool.
Dog was actually played by several different dogs, which led to a couple of rather unique behind-the-scenes problems.
Well, what happened was the first dog we had, it was a very old dog. It was a wonderful dog, but he passed away. And the second dog that we had was a young dog. And the first day, I was ready to shoot, and they said, "We're not ready." I said, "What's the problem?" "We're waiting for the dog." I said, "Well, where is he?" And he was in makeup. And he's sitting in the barber's chair, and he's munching on a dog biscuit, and they're playing music. And the makeup artist is applying clown white to his face to make him look older. Oh.
Just as trusty as Dog was Columbo's ever-present raincoat. And while Levinson and Link envisioned a coat from the beginning, it was Falk who provided the actual wardrobe.
Well, now, the raincoat is mine and the shoes are mine. The suit is made in London. But everything else is mine. I'm proud to say that I picked out the raincoat and I picked out the shoes. The truth about the suit was that it was a wardrobe suit, but I had it dyed. It was blue and white, and I had it dyed brown. I'm partial to brown.
And the shirt, we dyed that beige, so we had a symphony of brown. I felt that drab would be good for him. And I knew of a raincoat that I wanted to wear, and that was mine. I liked it. I felt comfortable in it.
Oh, that coat. The coat, that coat, that coat. Oh, I'm sure that we can find something nicer for you in the other room. Something maybe a bit warmer.
Well, people say that it's in the Smithsonian Institute, and if my second floor closet is the Smithsonian Institute, that's where it is.
Of course, there was one mystery viewers could never solve. The answer to the question, what is Columbo's first name? You see, Levinson and Link never wanted viewers to know the answer and considered it a closely guarded secret. Eagle-eyed viewers, however, have noticed the name Frank written on Columbo's police ID, but the producers insist that this is a mistake and that Columbo's real first name has never been revealed.
What's your real name?
Lieutenant Columbo.
Your first name?
Lieutenant.
All of this, the coat, the dog, the endless stream of relatives, and Columbo's seemingly forgetful nature all served a single purpose: disarming the detective's criminal foils. And what a group of foils they were. Each episode featured a celebrity guest murderer, creating a rogues gallery that included Johnny Cash, Ruth Gordon, Roddy McDowell, Patrick McGowan, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, Robert Vaughn, and even Dick Van Dyke.
Columbo, you're becoming very annoying. Do you know that?
Each episode, Lieutenant Columbo matched wits with these crafty criminals inside an innovative format that quickly became familiar and comforting to the audience.
No, you know, I think one of the reasons that people enjoy Columbo is that we go into such detail in terms of explaining to the audience exactly how the crime is committed.
we utilize the inverted mystery. That means where you know who did it up top.
You know who did it. You see the murder unfold. You know, the first 20, 25 minutes, you see the murder unfold. Columbo arrives, and then I nail the guy.
You as a viewer, you have all the cards. He's got none of the cards. Now, what's he going to do? That's the fascination of this. He begins his dance with the murderer. How is he going to ferret out what's wrong with the original plan and then finally trap the murderer at the end?
And Columbo did trap the murderer, every time, in all 69 cases. The first 45 aired on NBC from 1971 to 1978. Then the show returned in 1989, this time on ABC, airing 24 sporadically scheduled adventures until 2003. For over 30 years, Columbo was a ratings winner, and even today, the show is still embraced by fans old and new who find themselves swept up in the adventures of the funny little detective in the rumpled raincoat.
Oh, Mr. Janice, just one more thing, please.
I thought you had a clock to punch.
I do. I'm leaving right now.